Hey guys, it's Corey from Redefining Strength, and today I wanted to go over how to master the deadlift. The deadlift is one of my favorite movements and a great posterior chain exercise, meaning it works everything down your backside. However, it is a very complicated move with some specific coaching cues that can really help you get more out of it. So often when clients come to me and they've done the deadlift, they just let their lower back take over and compensate for everything. Your upper back should be working, your glute should really be powering the movement, your lower back should not be taking on all the load. It's how you end up injured. So I want to go over coaching cues today that can help you really master the form and then even show you a couple modifications to help you really dial it in and progress from there. Sometimes we have to regress to progress so that we can make sure the right muscles are working. Just doing the movement and looking like we're doing the right form isn't enough. We want the right muscles working. So as you go through all the different coaching cues that I'm going to show you and the movements, I want you to really think about the muscles that should be working as you do the movement. So the traditional barbell deadlift, okay? It's conventional deadlift. It's not a squat. A lot of times when I see people come to the bar, they think about squatting lower. It's a hip hinge, which means you want to load your glutes. Even with the conventional deadlift, you want some knee bend. You're not actively squatting, so flexing the knees, but you want soft knees so you can really sink down and load those glutes with the hip hinge. You want to make sure that the bar is right up against your shins and that you're centered on the bar. So often we let the bar drift away, and that's when we start to get into trouble with loading our low back. You want to make sure it's right up against your shins, okay? You can then place your hands evenly outside, and a lot of the bars will have different markings on them so that you can make sure you're centered, but you want to think about pushing the ground away. So you want to grip the bar nice and tight, you want to create tension right from the bottom, you want to think about a nice flat back, engaging your lats to draw your shoulder blades down, and then you want to think about pushing the ground away to pick the bar up, squeezing the glutes at the top. You're not leaning back, you're just squeezing your glutes. You then want to make sure you keep the bar close to your shins as you put it down. You're controlling the descent, but you're not necessarily eccentrically loading the descent, okay? People will drop the bar at the top. I don't teach it that way. If you choose to, you can, but you really want to think about pushing the ground away as you stand up. It's pushing the ground away and not picking the bar up off the ground that usually makes the difference for people with using their legs more. So when you set up at the bottom, thinking about creating tension on the bar already, so not letting your elbows bend, creating tension on the bar, pushing the ground away to lift, squeezing the butt at the top, then lowering back down. And again, you're hinging at the hips, pushing the butt back as you go over. A lot of times what will happen is people will let the bar drift away, they'll reach out, but you're driving the ground away and you're almost pulling the bar back towards you, thinking about scraping it up your shins, as uncomfortable as that might be. That is the conventional deadlift. Again, you're not squatting, okay? You're hip hinging, so you're loading those glutes. If you have a client that is less flexible, they might have a slight bit more knee bend, but you want to make sure they're not squatting. It's this movement. You can teach them by having a wall behind them or by even using a band. That can be really helpful. Another variation, and you can do straight leg, you can also do sumo. But again, with sumo, the toes might be turned out, the feet are going to be a little bit wider, you're going to have your hands inside. And as your grip starts to go, you can always go to a mixed grip, but the more that you can, you want to use both hands pointing back towards you, because the mixed grip can throw off different things. It is a little bit of an imbalance, okay? So you want to set up so that the bar is up against your shins. Again, you're pushing your butt back, you're engaging your upper back to support, you're not letting it be lax here, you're pulling up on the bar right from the beginning, and you're pushing that ground away to lift, squeezing the butt at the top, okay? Then you'll lower back down, keeping the bar back towards your legs. It's very key that you keep the bar back towards the legs, and again, push that ground away so you make sure you're using your glutes to power the movement. You're not just trying to jerk it up. Because a lot of times when we think pick it up, we lose tension in our upper back, and then we do this roll back thing of our shoulders. We want that upper back engaged and tense right from the beginning. Because you have to drag the barbell up your shins, and it can be uncomfortable for clients starting out. Sometimes a kettlebell or even a dumbbell can be a great way to teach the deadlift, because what you can have a client do or yourself do is actually step over the kettlebell. And guys, a good rule of thumb is with conventional about hip width, shoulder width apart. With sumo, you're going to be wider than shoulder width. And depending on your leg length and all those different things, you can play around with different distances. The great part about the deadlift is that no one deadlift is going to look exactly the same, but you're using that hip hinge movement to use your posterior chain. So you're going to step over the kettlebell, and you can do it sumo too, or even a straight leg. But for the conventional, you're going to have the kettlebell back towards your heels. You're going to create tension through your upper back. Again, pushing that ground away, squeezing the butt, and then setting the kettlebell back towards your heels. Because you can set the kettlebell back towards your heels when you do it, it's a little bit easier to make sure that you're actually hip hinging and loading those glutes. Because with the barbell, people will try and protect themselves and not scrape their shins. This doesn't have that sort of injury prone or risk of scraping your shin, so you can set it back between, which makes it a little bit easier mentally sometimes to learn. But setting over it, sitting the butt back, hip hinging, loading those glutes, squeezing the butt at the top, and then setting it back so that you're really pushing that butt back. Again, if someone's struggling to do that and they're letting the bar or the kettlebell get way out in front, they're just leaning over like you'll often see, it can be really nice to train the hip hinge movement with the band so that they have to pull their butt back or push their butt back and sit back into their glutes and really use their glutes. Training with a wall even behind them so they can go back to something and have that to push their butt back to can be really, really helpful. That is the basics of kettlebell deadlift form. Remember the coaching cues of pushing the ground away, setting with tension at the bottom. Those will really help, as well as scraping the bar up your shins. Granted, we don't want to cause a whole bunch of blood loss, but we want to make sure the bar stays close so we can really drive that ground away, load those glutes, keep our upper back engaged, because we don't want any loss of tension throughout the movement. If you do feel your lower back taking over, regress the move, really focus on that form. Think about a slow pull, don't rush it up. You're not picking the bar up, you're pushing the ground away. Enjoy deadlifts. They're a great posterior chain exercise and a great way to work your entire backside, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video and are ready to master the deadlift. For even more tips to help you master the deadlift, I've linked out to all my deadlift variations in the video description. I've also linked to an article on all things deadlift, from beginner variations to coaching cues to tips to help you really dial them in and even progress them. Hope you enjoyed the video and are ready to take on the deadlift.